I think we're good. All right. So you want me to... I just kick off whenever we kick off, right? Welcome everybody to episode 134 of the You Can't Comp This NBA Trading Card Podcast. We're your host Adam, Amy and Russell Gibson. Russell, another week in the books. We are closer to the NBA Finals, or the end of the season anyway. How are you?
I'm very good. I'm very excited. It is another week in the books, but I think for us it's not. It's more than another week in the books.
It's I don't know, maybe it's a big week.
It's a massive week. Come on, we've got some news to announce. I think we should just get straight to it. No weather talk today, no small talk, just straight to business.
But it was beautiful outside.
It might have been beautiful. I just don't want to talk about it.
That's fair. Yeah. Big news. Look, I'm gonna give you a bit of a drum roll and pass it to you.
Lay it on to us.
Let's go.
So I think we should start off with the thank yous. I think that's the easiest way to introduce. So I think we should say thank you to David Griffiths because he is the one who vouched for us, who spoke about us to Angelica. And Angelica, I would say, has been very graceful and very patient with us and very gracious inviting us into her team. And her team is Central Coast Radio. So as of the next couple of weeks, we don't have an exact date nailed down yet, but we can now officially announce this every Sunday morning, Melbourne time.
Yeah.
10 a.m. to midday. So we've got a 2-hour time slot. It's going to be the same You Can't Comp This recipe. Nothing's going to change in that sense, but there will be some music added into it.
Yeah.
And it will just give us an opportunity to potentially have some extra content that, doesn't go into the podcast. I think that's probably one small thing that we might change up. But look, I think it's difficult sometimes to measure or appreciate. Success is not the right word, but maybe progress. And I think, I want to say this to you publicly, congratulations, mate. I think this is, it's fantastic for us. And I think it's something that we've been working on for a while now. And to get a little reward like this, it's very exciting and very humbling. That's the other thing.
Humbling is the right word. I think it's a big step. We've been like 100 episodes was huge. Don't get me wrong, but taking the step from the podcast platform to a time slot on a radio station is it's very humbling. It's very it's surreal for me. It's amazing. From where we started to where we are now is amazing. And very thankful, very grateful for the listeners. Yeah. And thank you, David, for putting us forward.
We probably owe him a beer or two, don't we?
Yeah, I think that's the least we can do. The least we can do.
So I think the last thing we should say about this before we move on is that the time slot is great for us because Central Coast Radio is a digital radio station, which when I initially heard about it, I didn't understand. But the positives of a digital radio station is that it's around the world and 80% of their demographics are in the US, which is pretty much the polar opposite of what our podcast stats show. So at the moment, we're 80% Australia, 10% America, and then 10% the rest of the world. Whereas now this is going to give us that sort of upside down exposure, if you wish. 80% America, 10% Australia, and 10% the rest of the world. So I'm super psyched about that. Like if we can, break into, and I'm using air quotes on that, to the US market, I think that would be amazing. So
yeah, it's going to be and it is that Sunday time slot is very much Saturday afternoon, evening.
That's right.
Which is when all trading card enthusiasts like to listen to the
sitting
radio.
around listening to the digital radio.
That's exactly right. Exactly right. On the Central Coast of the United States.
Look, we have to be optimistic here, Ad.
Yeah. No, look, I think it's huge. It's exciting, and it's a good feeling. So
to David John, to Amir, I've been hinting at something big dropping, and this is it. So I'm sorry, boys, I couldn't announce it earlier, but we just wanted to keep it under wraps until the ink was on the contract. So
yeah, they signed up. They can't. There's no backing out now. We're going to be on. More people have to listen to us.
That's right.
That means more complaints, really, but maybe.
Speaking of ink on contracts, Adam, why don't we talk about the Kobe statue and the unfortunate
unfortunate ink? Jose Cauldron? Is that his name? Is it? I don't know. Josie Calderon.
I think for people who are unaware of this, I think you should give a little bit of background into it before we jump straight in.
Yeah. For those that aren't aware, Kobe Bryant got a statue out front of Crypto Arena, and let's pay for quality, given it's probably one of the greatest Lakers of all time, one of. Let's pay attention to detail. Apparently, that's not the case. We found out this week that maybe they stinged on the spelling and grammar check.
So the Spurs, the words that were misspelt were Jose Calderon, Von Wafer, and Coach's decision. So there was actually 3 typos. Coach's
decision was misspelt under, ready for it? Coach's decision.
That's actually a weird one.
It was underneath the words Coach's decision, and then it was misspelt the line below.
So look, my complaint about this is that the Egyptians can build pyramids 5,000 years ago, and then today we can't even spell things properly. I sometimes worry about humanity and the progress we're making, Ad.
Can I just say, what the duck is this all about? If they'd only used autocorrect. Yes. It's crazy, given it's an important statue. And, yep.
So what do you think the practicalities were around this? Because my theory is that they were working to a pretty tight deadline and corners were cut.
It was announced months ago that it was going to be on this specific day. I'm sure something got behind. There were problems there, and look, as much as we like to joke about it, it's probably not the most focal point of the exercise is getting the box score right. Still a little bit of an error, given how much scrutiny you think would be applied to it in social media, as we've seen. But getting the statue right, getting it out, getting it ready for the unveiling date is probably the most important thing. And they have said that they will get it right.
It's fixable, yeah.
Yes. It's not like it's the actual statue itself with all the detail. Anyone that did see the ceremony would be aware that there was a lot that went into it. There's so much detail that is on this statue that, look, fixing the box score is not the most difficult thing in the world.
I'm going to test your memory for a second now. When you were watching the ceremony, did they uncover that part of the statue, or did they keep it covered up to sort of, keep it secret for the day to not spoil the day?
I'm actually not sure. I don't even. I was watching. Am I putting myself? Am I throwing myself under the bus here? I actually was on break, so it's fine. I was on break at work when I was watching the ceremony, so I may have had my phone, and it was I didn't get to look at too much detail.
Sure.
So I didn't pick up the spelling mistakes.
Let's leave it at that. You're doing the Jordan shrug as you're saying that.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, Matthew Hull in the comments. This is what happens when you get art students who make statues to spell their work.
You can't blame the art students, Matty.
Yes, they were definitely students, because it's only one of the most important statues at Crypto. Oh, goodness. But yes, interesting that they did that.
Let's talk some Kobe cards, because this is a banger. I think you'll like this one, Ad. 1996 Flair Showcase, Kobe Bryant, a Legacy Collection, row 0, numbered to 150, BGS 10, not a black label, only let down by the edges, which got a 9.5. The other subgrades all received a 10. So 10 pristine. Recently sold at Golden's auction on the 2nd of March, so, very recent sale.
Yeah.
$147,000, 620.
That is a beautiful looking card. That is like there's nothing else to say. That is a beautiful card.
So for the uninitiated ad, why are people paying so much for that card?
Because it's Kobe. No, I have no idea. The Flair Showcase, is that... I don't even know what the pop count is on that.
So my very basic understanding of these row 0 cards is you have to almost imagine that's like the courtside card.
Yeah.
And then the row 1 is... there's the population on that's higher, and then as you go back, it gets more and more.
So level
essentially
1,
the row
2,
0
3,
is...
4... Yeah.
So the level 4 is like your... maybe you could call it like a level 4 out of the Court Kings, these days.
Yeah,
where that's the hardest one to get.
Yeah. Beautiful card, though.
Look, this actually fits into a little bit of the next topic that we're talking about, cards that are just absolutely popping, and, sometimes there's a good reason for it, and sometimes there's not a fantastic reason for it. Now, we did talk about this on last week's show, but we put up a social media post about it this week on Facebook. We had some, again, thank you everyone for contributing, getting into that.
Yeah.
I found a couple myself that I was kind of interested in. So the one that I found, which I thought... I found two. And I found two that were in a pretty specific price range.
Yeah.
One was the 1997 Jordan Finest. I just think that's just a really nice looking card.
Yep.
So if you're looking at the Facebook page, and also if you're listening to the podcast, if you click on the podcast description, pretty much everything that we talk about each week, I put into the link. So if you want to click on it as we're talking and look at the posts, please feel free to listen along and do that. So you'll see that when it's got the without coding. So these generation of cards had this very distinctive peel on them. Some people will peel them off and send it in for grading, and some people will remove them. And this is a little bit of a funny debate. We can segue into this for 2 seconds. Oof. I'm a peeler. Are you a peeler or not a peeler?
Oh, you don't like the coating?
Well, I just think that when you peel it off, the card looks amazing, and sometimes I find it looks a little bit dull.
So you reckon like a PSA 10 with the coating off is better than a PSA 10 with the coating on?
I think aesthetics, they look nicer. I think the colors are more vivid. I actually wonder if they're harder to gem with the coating on, though.
Harder to gem with it on. I'm undecided on which is more difficult. But yeah, it's...
Which do you prefer, though? Because I'm going to nail you down on this one, Ad. You haven't actually given us an answer here.
Part of me says the coating on, but aesthetically, I agree with you aesthetically. But condition-wise, I'm the kind of guy that likes his pop vinyls in the box.
Yeah.
So that's I suppose that's my comparison.
Sure.
Is I do like it with the coating on, because it shows that it's untouched, I guess.
Yeah.
Is the right phrase. Yeah. But I think both are very, very, for their own purpose. Like I do admit that it looks nice without the coating, because it gives you just the card. Or looking at your pop vinyl outside the box. I don't know which one. But yeah.
So that's Pop 93, sub $200. That ticked off basically 3 boxes for me. So this is the type of thing that I was, looking at.
Yeah.
And what I'm speculating here, what I'm prospecting on is that what is the next Jordan that's going to pop? Ooh. So, and the reason why I chose in this price range, in this PSA rating, and also for the aesthetics is that, look, if it does nothing, I still think it's a nice card and I'm happy with the price that I paid for it. So that's the other part of this too. Yep. The other one, the price on this is much lower. The population on it is much higher. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's as aesthetically pleasing, but I also think too, it's almost like a very classic looking Jordan card. So that's the 1996 Ultra.
Yeah.
Jordan number 143. So look, I think both of these cards are in my now eBay search list. There's a couple others I also added to my search list, but I might share those with you if or when I finally do purchase them.
This will be... I'm excited. I'm excited to see them.
Did you nail down any?
I didn't nail down any. I have been looking at the Facebook post though, because there are some beautiful Jordans.
What took your eye on those, man?
It's funny because Andrew Hewitt did point out the 1993 Upper Deck the Fanimation Agent 23.
Yeah,
I
sure.
remember this card
Yeah.
as a child, and I was like, yeah, it was definitely one of those. Good comment though. It's one of those childhood memories.
Yeah.
Not for the same reason that the 92, 93 Upper Deck Jordan shot is synonymous with Jordan, but I remember it. It was like, oh, that's Michael Jordan. Like that was the not Jordan card, if that makes sense. Yeah.
I think that's quite an iconic card, to be honest.
Yeah. It's an interesting card. Because it's a drawing. It's not a photo. It's not an action shot.
But if you think about it, you could almost argue it's been quite influential because I think Court Kings essentially is a derivative out of this. Like all those cards are portrait cards.
Yeah.
And then you can almost, again, say this is a derivative of like a Kaboom, or a Kaboom is a derivative of this. Do you know what I mean? Like it's that, especially the early Kabooms that were like, you know, very sort of like almost robotic, or they weren't, you know, true portraits. So
do you know what the interesting thing, well, what the thing that comes to my mind when I think of this card, and there might be no connection whatsoever.
Doesn't have to
but
be.
But it's something like this that, you know, someone like Tyson Beck. Do you know what I mean? Like this is the inspiration. This is the original canvas where it's greenlit to say art or paintings. Do you know what I mean? Like a not photo is okay. And it might have, like, I'm not saying it's probably Tyson's inspiration, but I'm saying it's what could motivate somebody to create art rather than be a photographer. Yeah.
Well, to be fair, we need to get Tyson onto the show, and I think that's actually a very good question we could ask him. You know, what were the cards that inspired you, or
look at that? Look at us! Like this is how the magic happens. Everybody gets a look behind the curtain on nights like tonight. Tyson, reach out to us, or we'll reach out to you. We'll get you on the show.
We need to reach out. Look, to be fair, we actually have sent him a message, and he's very happy to come on. We just need to get our act together. So
we need to pull our fingers out and organise
exactly.
It. Yeah.
So there's a few here, and I think we should run through them all pretty quickly. Ryan Jewell, he put that. I'm going to call this the Scarface. I like this card. I think, again, that's a very distinctive card. And
I'm gonna get, for those playing at home, I've got the link up and watching the live feed. There we go.
Beautiful.
That's a beautiful card. That is a beautiful card. I don't know if it's better than Scarface, but
Scarface is tough to beat.
It's a
as much as I love
cards. Could you imagine if they did a series where it was like Scarface of Jordan, then they did like The Godfather?
What would be the Godfather comparison?
I don't know, but they do it in a similar artistic flavor.
Okay.
I don't know. Godfather Part 1, 2, 3, the three-peat. Here we go. Look at this.
I suppose there was a bit of politics around the second three-peat, wasn't there? That was sort of Godfather-esque. There was a few assassinations of character and
something like that.
Andrew Suter Hewitt, 1996 Medal Fleer scoring magnet. That is, there
are some beautiful Jordan cards out there. Let's be real. That was, that is a nice card.
I'll do this next one now, just because this is my favorite one. So again, this is from Andrew. Thanks, Andrew. 1997 Stadium Club Hardcourt Heroics. I haven't checked the comps on this, but this is kind of the card that I had in the back of my mind of getting, where I'm like, are these undervalued? Is there any value in getting these? I have to check the pop reports, all that type of stuff. But yeah, I think this is the type of card that would be worth collecting and almost speculating on, to be honest.
Yeah.
I like this a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. What have we got next? Oh, I like this one. The 98 Topps Legacies. That is a beautiful shot. Like, who's that by? Anthony Milne, of course. Of course.
Long-time supporter, huge Jordan collector.
Yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, this almost looks like a semi-opaque card.
I'm trying to see if it's like a hologram or if it's is it opaque?
Almost looks like a Donruss Clearly card in that it's printed on that sort of hard clear plastic.
Yeah. It's a beautiful card though. This is the thing. There's some of these 90s inserts that are just so aesthetic. I don't know. I think they don't make them like they used to. Do I sound old?
Yeah, that is literally the definition.
Anthony in the chat, foil finish shine.
There you go. 1991 Fleer Provisions, again from Andrew.
Also another drawing. Interesting point. Just going to keep pointing that out every now and then.
That's totally fine. 1989 Fleer Sticker.
Yes.
Where are you at with stickers? Do you find stickers versus cards collectible?
There's a level of collectability, especially if they're not unstuck. Because think about it, right? 1989, I would have been young, which is now I'm old. So we're not disclosing ages here because that would be ageist. I would have struggled not to unstick it. Do you know what I mean? Like, you'd put it on a folder or on your favorite book or on your backpack or just something, on your lunchbox.
Yeah.
So the fact that it's unstuck and in mint condition is very impressive, to say the least.
I get why people do find these collectible and pay money for them, but
Yeah.
it's just not something I'm interested in. It's almost... I feel like I've got enough on my hands to collect just with cards, let alone to then go out and collect something else. So yeah, I'm just like... Stickers is a sort of a hard cutoff for me.
Fair.
Yep.
All right,
95, 96 Hoops, top 10, Michael Jordan, BGS 9.5. Subgrades that were let down on is the edges at 9.5 and surface of 9. Look, you can hardly say this is a letdown, but that's what
I
held you back
like
from the
this
Black
card.
Label. Talk to me about this, Ad.
I like this is Anthony Mill landed this on the weekend, so it's a very recent acquisition. Aside from the landscape orientation, I just think this is a really beautiful looking insert.
Yeah.
Like this is
I get this. This is the feeling I get from this card is this is when Skybox and Hoops were almost
the same product
crossing over and collaborating together. Because that look to me is like almost the epitome of when Skybox and Hoops just were. You couldn't really tell the difference between the two.
This is like it feels very 90s, if that makes. Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, definitely with the parachute pants and the fluoro
top
socks,
10, the 10 on the angle and it's like count down the top plays of the week. Like it's got that vibe about it. It's really nice pickup for Anthony there.
The other thing I'm going to add to this though too is that Hoops actually do nice cards. Like I suspect that's not worth $1,000, but they make cool cards and they do put a lot of thought into them. So yeah. Alrighty, this is from Nua. So Nua, I believe you're a new contributor to the page, so welcome to the show and thanks for contributing. This is a Michael Jordan record breaker. Now this is the only way to describe this is the hologram die cut card.
That's insane.
I call these a desk card where they look great on your desk and they sit there, and then particularly with the hologram, I think that would look fantastic. So yeah.
No, that's hot. I like that a lot.
Our last one is from James Gregory. He's actually taken a picture of a lot of cards, but there is quite a few Jordans in there. The talking point for this ad that I wanted to raise with you is the BCCG. Would you resub these cards to PSA or to BGS even, considering the now lesser reputation of BCCG?
Would you? Well, a card that's been graded a 10, and look, what's the worst do you think could happen from regrading a card that's been graded a 10 by we'll call them a non-preferred grading company? It's not going to get a PSA 6. Well, you'd hope not. You would hope not.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's a pretty curly question that I asked you. And I think for these cards, I don't think you would.
Well, I'm looking at the range, right? Like, there's no inserts there. There's nothing that stands out as the next, I don't know, Inside Out that's gone from $80 to $1,000.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I don't know. I've coined in the game with the BCCG argument.
Do you really?
Well, not really coined in the game. I have a card that I would like to cross over. And I will one day, probably.
So correct me if I'm wrong about this, but my understanding of BCCG is essentially they've been discredited through the grading community.
Yeah. But I do have a BCCG 10 that I'm curious to see what it will grade at.
So I think the play there is that you crack it out yourself, or you approach somebody that is very slick at cracking them out.
Yep.
Put it into a Kangaroo One Touch or grading sleeve, and then you send it off.
Yeah. It's a card that is definitely worth being careful with.
Yeah. Are you going to tell us what it is, or are you just going to leave us hanging?
It's a Kobe rookie.
Yeah.
Bowman's Refractor.
Yeah, sure.
So
that definitely needs to be fixed at some point.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Yeah, it's not like a trash player like Luka Doncic or something.
We didn't advertise this ad, but I think we have a box of women's AFL sitting on the shelf, courtesy of our friends at EJ Cards. So, EJ Cards, thank you so much for your ongoing support. Adam, who is the impromptu winner of today's WAFL box of cards?
Oh, based on the Jordan inserts?
Yeah.
Whoa. Oh, I might need a tiebreaker because I've got a couple here.
Will you pick one or a second one, and then I can choose between the two? That's totally fine.
Okay, so the Fanimation is up there.
Sure.
But I'm also, I have to say, my personal favorite is Anthony's top 10. Like, Jordan is so 90s that it's not funny, and that top 10 just screams
great. That's totally fine.
Basketball to me.
So I would have chosen the 97 Stadium Club Hardcourt Heroics, but if we're going between the two that you chose, I can't choose the Fanimation as a winner.
No, I know.
I think that's an excellent card, and I get why you would shortlist it, but so I think therefore the winner has to be the top 10. So Anthony, I will shoot you a DM, and I'll get that posted out to you in the next week.
Some women's AFL. AFLW for the win.
So, speaking of Jordans, we should really talk about this. 1997 Skybox Premium Star Rubies, authentic, not graded.
I enjoy the authentic grade, don't you?
Why do you enjoy the authentic grade?
I like the fact that we're at a point in history where we need to confirm that a card is authentic. That's a little bit of sarcasm there. When it comes to one-of-ones, authenticating the card makes sense to me.
Sure.
When there's a print run that's a lot bigger than, I don't know, one, authentic doesn't cut it for me. Like, I want to know what the quality of the card is.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very valid point. And so this card sold for 109,000 USD, nearly 110. It's numbered to 50, so I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that this card wouldn't have graded very well, and that's why they've just authenticated it.
Yep.
And that's what's really interesting to me, because despite that, it's still sold for huge dollars.
Imagine if it was like, I don't know, PSA 9 or 10. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe double then.
That's insane when you think about it.
So look, congratulations to the owner. I'm very, very happy for you, and I think to the seller, surely they've got to be over the moon for that. That's
Damn right. Yeah.
that's a house, right?
That is.
Final thoughts on Jordan before we move on.
Jordan is my question at the moment is: will there be another? Will the next generation that saw LeBron, that saw Kobe, that saw Steph, feel the same way about their heroes? Because there are people growing up now that did not watch Jordan play basketball.
Yeah.
And they are going to... And I'm not having the GOAT debate, but I'm saying that LeBron James or Steph Curry is their GOAT.
Oh, definitely.
Is the same... Do you think the same thing could happen with modern day cards?
Of course. I actually think it's happening already.
Do you think it will be with LeBron?
So I think LeBron is one of those people who is going to be incredibly liquid.
Yeah.
Kobe is going to be one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I would say Kobe is already happening, so it's just a matter of time until we start seeing Jordan-esque things happening with the Kobe inserts and all that type of stuff. And then the other one that you mentioned is Steph. And I think that one is less of a sure bet than LeBron and Kobe. And I think that one is much, much further away. Like that might not happen for another, say, 20 years or so. So it's a very long bet. But at the same time, so for example, like where I'm going with this is that I think if you're making the argument that you should be buying Kobe's at the moment because the inserts are cheap and they look good. So let's just say we did this exercise on Kobe instead of Jordan. You might be picking up stuff that's much, much better for much cheaper. And I think that sort of next level sort of cost escalation can still happen. I think that's definitely on the cards. And then, I think the obvious one though is LeBron. And I think we're in a really funny spot at the moment because he's in product and he hasn't signed for such a long time. And I almost feel as though at the moment LeBron inserts are undervalued in that way.
Interesting. Yeah, I know what you mean. And it's
because if you go into Lakers breaks, right? What are you hoping to get? You're hoping to get LeBron's.
Kobe, Magic.
Yeah.
LeBron,
maybe.
AD.
Yeah, and you're not hoping, well, because you're not going to get a LeBron autograph. So what are you hoping for? Well, a numbered LeBron, a numbered
jersey. Insert. A piece of material that he didn't wear or something.
Yeah. Well, or that he did wear. That would be even better.
That somebody in Lakers uniform wore.
And look, who knows what's going to happen when, Fanatics takes over. Maybe they're going to pump out, more LeBron stuff than we can gouge our eyes with. Like, who knows? But I still do think that people will look back at the Panini era and, collect some of these inserts. Like, if people are collecting hoops and they're collecting Skybox and Upper Deck, do you know what I mean? Like, that to me is very comparable to, everything that's happening with Panini at the moment. So,
segue on the final thought.
Yeah.
Is Jordan the only player
to be as liquid as this
that's going to see these kind of spikes from the 90s? Sorry, from this junk wax
from the 90s.
Yeah. Is there going to be a spike on Shaq? Is there going to be...
Well, funny you say that. Actually, Shaq is having a bit of a rise at the moment.
That's why I thought it might be interesting.
From the 90s, I think the issue with the people from the 90s is that, look, some stuff will definitely go up. I don't think if you buy other things from the 90s, it's not going to go up. I don't think that's the point of this comment what I'm about to make. But
no.
I think Jordan has dominated the 90s in such a profound way.
Yeah, agreed.
And not just card-wise, like it extends to culture. It's actually quite hard to even really think about who's in second place, let alone third, fourth, or fifth. So,
yeah.
Influential
influential athletes like Jordan.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
If you're saying specific to 90s, well then, my answer is no, Jordan is the one. I don't think, why would you bother doing anything else? Yeah.
Agreed. Cool. That was fun.
Alrighty. So this next segment, we have to give Jules from EJ Cards this, because to be honest, I might have even been overhearing his conversation with somebody else, and then it's stuck in my mind. Maybe we were talking about it. I actually can't remember. Either way, this is Jules's.
Was this at a trade day?
I was most likely at the shop. Yeah. So Jules,
likely.
Full credit here. So Jules's theory is that unnumbered Prism, even though it sells and it's much more popular, and if we want to keep using words from earlier, liquid.
Yeah.
But you should be looking at numbered hoops and numbered Donruss because they're cheaper and there's less of them. Where are you at?
Interesting.
Where are you at with, let's call it the Jules theory?
The Jules theory.
This is officially the Jules theory.
I actually quite like the Jules theory. I think numbered cards, if they're not Prism, are underrated, undervalued, and underappreciated is probably the right word.
Yep.
I think the limited population of these kind of cards is not given the credit that it should be given. Yeah, and I think there should be serious consideration for the limited quantity in today's age that numbering brings. Just ask the 50,000 people that have a Luka Doncic base Prism card.
You're slightly exaggerating, but that's fine. I'll let you get away.
It's only 40-something thousand. I'm sorry. The base, not the Prism. I'm saying the base. But yeah, like pop counts are going through the roof.
Look, I've definitely been thinking about this, and I'm going to be actually quite blunt with my answer here.
Ooh.
So sometimes, even if you think something is right, and I'll even go so far as to say that you know you're right, sometimes you can still be wrong. So let's talk about Prism for a second.
Yep.
Let's talk about Prism for a second. So
let's go back to Prism.
Prism is what it is. At the end of the day,
comes
Prism
back
is
to
king,
Prism.
right?
Yeah.
And so my theory a few years back was that Select was the much superior product. So I bought very little Prism, and I was buying, I would say almost 80% was Select. The problem is the market sentiment doesn't share the same thing. So even if I think I'm getting a good deal, even if I think I'm paying unders, and I think I'm smarter than everybody else, and I'm getting, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter. Like,
correct.
If you then go to resell it, the market isn't there for it. It's not as chased as what Prism is. In saying all of that, if you're looking at the market and you're looking at comps and you're getting for something that you think is under comps,
yep.
You think you're getting a good deal, that's fine. I say take the deal, because there's always going to be some place in the market for it. But if you think that it's going to magically one day go up to higher values than Prism, I would say tread very cautiously with that thought in mind if you're going out to make purchases like that. So
yeah.
Now look, in saying all of that, Select still holds a very special place in my heart. So maybe what this is really talking about with Jules is actually Jules just enjoys Donruss and he enjoys hoops more than Prism. And I think there is an argument to be made about that, particularly at price points. And that's the other part of this conversation too, is that I think a very important and a very healthy thing to be in this hobby and to maintain your longevity in the hobby is making sure that you don't overextend, price yourself. So yeah. I think that's where these products become very powerful, is that, you can get a numbered, like the one that I put up was a Cam Whitmore to 75. Look, I'll be shocked if that sells for anything more than $10, but to get that card in Prism, you might be looking at $100, and that's just the reality of, what the market dictates. So I think we should go through the listener responses, because I think some of these are really what you've said.
Yeah.
So White Oz cards, any numbered card surely beats an unnumbered overprinted Prism. That's totally fine. That was on Instagram, so thank you, Luke, for that. And Blair, anything numbered trumps not numbered, in my opinion, unless we're talking SSP non-numbered. So what I think he's referring to there is case hits.
Yeah.
And Matthew Hull, which I think is in the live chat, always numbered in my eyes. And yeah, that's basically what you were saying from before.
Yeah, yeah, but that's the thing. Like, we put so much, or like you and I do, we put stock in pop counts, right? And we use that as one of the determining factors.
Yeah.
When it comes to valuing cards, and we've talked about it in the past, where we're saying rather than the silver prism, maybe look for the numbered stuff. And when you really go back and think about it, numbered stuff guarantees a ceiling on the pop count.
Definitely.
So I think it creates its own value. So I if something has numbering, it definitely increases its it increases the integrity of the collectability, if that's not using too many random terms.
I think it does. But I think you then need to keep that in like a prorated sort of thought, right? Like you can't say a number to 10 of hoops is the same as like a number to 10 of prism. Do you know what I mean? Like that's where it's
for sure.
Yeah, and that's the easiest way to explain it, isn't it? Really, right? Yeah. Alrighty. Now, this segment, you're going to have to bear with me a little bit. And this is I'm going to call this the nerd segment of the day. So this is going to be like almost a little bit sort of stat heavy. But I think this is going to be interesting in the sense that a really weird rule that they recently implemented could actually affect the hobby trajectory. So hear me out.
Ooh.
In the last collective bargaining agreement, but an agreement was made that there would also be games limits applied to awards. So they have to play so many games, and if they don't play X amount of games, they're ineligible for awards. So these are the players who are now ineligible for awards.
Yep.
Embiid, Jimmy Butler, Draymond Green, Kyrie Irving, Ja Morant, Marcus Smart, OG Anunoby, LaMelo Ball. Some of these are obvious because they've missed a heap of games.
Yeah.
And they're going to be ruled out of the awards anyway, but still interesting conversation. Bradley Beal, Porzingis, Zach LaVine, Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, Jamal Murray, Chris Paul, Russell Westbrook. Now, that's an interesting one because I actually thought he was going to win sixth man this year. So, yes, I'm kind of haha, that's funny, but at the same time, it's not crazy.
It's like, either. There goes, I've done my dough on my Russell Westbrook for MVP. But you're right, sixth man of the year.
Look, I think there's a narrative for Westbrook for sixth man before he broke his hand.
Sure.
Desmond Bain, Tyler Hero, Chris Middleton, likely to join Donovan Mitchell, Karl Anthony Towns. So Towns is basically done for the year. So that was probably done before he had his surgery. Trae Young and Devin Booker. In brackets on Devin Booker, cannot miss 3 games. So now think about this from the opposite side. So if all of these people are now ruled out, in some ways for me, I actually don't know who is going to win the awards this year. And I actually wonder if, and I'm not saying this is ageist, but I almost wonder if this favors the younger players. So for example, and the most brightest example of this is SGA.
Yeah.
So almost by default, does SGA make all NBA because all of these other people who are, pretty good candidates have now been ruled out?
I find it interesting. It's concerning to me. I think Defensive Player of the Year, MVP, should have a higher bar as far as ineligibility for the awards go. I think that the game limit should be different for all NBA. Slightly, not a lot.
So, of that list, without sounding too harsh, I think realistically the only person who is in the MVP conversation is Embiid. Donovan Mitchell is like an
I don't know. Chris Middleton was a consideration. I'm joking. Anyway, I'm not even going to start.
So Donovan Mitchell is third on some people's MVP ballots.
Sorry, what?
And fantasy-wise, he's been top 5 all year. So there is... there's an outside argument to be made about him, but I don't think he was actually going to be voted MVP. Look, I think Towns was playing well, but again, he's not in MVP conversation. So let's just say one person was on that list, right? But still, for other awards, I think that's relevant.
Sure.
But that's from Bobby Marks. And again, this next piece is also from Bobby Marks. If you don't follow Bobby Marks on Twitter, do it now.
You're missing out.
Bobby Marks 42. SGA has met the 65 game requirement. He will meet the Supermax criteria, back-to-back All-NBA if named All-NBA this season. And that's where I think this is really interesting because to me, this is a done deal now. He's going to be All-NBA. Because SGA has 6 years of service this offseason, he will need to wait until 2025 offseason to resign. He has 3 years left on his contract. So,
but in all fairness, SGA is pushing MVP at the moment.
Yeah, sure, but
like the All NBA, you're right about the All NBA and the Supermax stuff, but
I think his MVP candidacy is increased by these rules with the 65 games.
Well, Embiid would be number one, I reckon, at this point.
Yeah, and the All NBA stuff, I think that's a separate argument. Like, he's either going to make 1, 2, or 3. Like, that's not debatable. But the MVP, I'm like, actually, this really favors him. So
yeah, for sure.
And I think the players winning awards, particularly long term, I think that does matter for their card value. So when you're looking back and you're trying to stack people up, does it matter immediately? I don't actually think that matters so much, but I wonder if down the road this actually might have some influence on that. So I thought this is the perfect time to talk SGA cards. I'm really trying hard to make up for our sins of earlier in the season ad. So from our friends at Card Ladder, 2018 Mojo number to 25, PSA 9, Pop 9. These are short printed to 25 already. This last sold for $3,250. Previous sale was $2,751. Buy, hold, or sell, Mr.
Buy.
Adam. So
I can't believe I'm saying it. I'm like,
you're all aboard the SGA train at this point.
I don't know about all aboard, but I know we haven't shown this kid enough love.
Yeah.
And I think a PSA 9, when it's numbered to 25, I mean, what's the pop going to... How likely is it that the pop of the PSA 9 is going to get much higher? Do you know what I mean?
I would say worst case scenario, this goes to 10 or 11. I think that's that.
Yeah. I'd be curious to know how many 10s there are, actually. But it's... I think this kid is the real deal.
Yeah. And still has room to improve. I think that's the thing for me too.
And I'm not gonna, because I'm gonna sound like a real hypocrite if I don't say it. He hasn't won an MVP yet. The Thunder haven't won a title yet. It's the same Luka thing. The potential is there though. Do you know what I mean? Like, you look at the same card and it's Luka. We're not talking $3,000.
At this point, do you like Luka or SGA better?
Ooh, I like SGA. If I'm buying one or the other, can you compare the prices? Surely. And I'm not even looking things up at the moment.
Yeah, sure.
I will hazard a guess right now.
Go off your gut. Yeah.
That Luka is 4 to 5 times more expensive than SGA. Without even looking it up. And that's all potential based and not results based. Because he's still won nothing, right?
A lot of stock went into Luka. I think that's very fair.
A lot of people are backing the potential and the projected outcomes. And I am completely understanding of the fact that Luka's season, that he's averaging 34 points a game or something insane?
Yeah. He's going to get the scoring title this year.
Luka is historic, the numbers. But he still hasn't been to the NBA Finals. He hasn't got an MVP. These accolades, yes, he's won some other stuff, and he's been All NBA. I get it, but SGA is like the Thunder are top 2 in the West. Dallas haven't done that yet. Dallas is struggling to make the playoffs with Luka, and that's probably a management thing. But I'm saying, like, Luka's prices are based on the potential and the fact that SGA is underrated and is already scaling that mountain of potential. I'd say SGA is a buy.
So you're going to froth over this. So Silver PSA 10 last sold for $700 for SGA, population of 609.
Mm-hmm.
Luka last sold for $1,083, population 2,280.
Where do you think the value is?
I think that perfectly illustrates what you're saying. Yeah.
It's not quite 4x, but you look at the pop count and you go, well,
that's fine. You did off the top of your head.
Yeah. And I think it's exponential when you talk about a card like the number to 25 Mojo.
Can you imagine if this is the outcome, that some kid that was drafted by the Clippers out of some small school, actually wasn't a small school, was he? But
it's pretty funny, though, if the Clippers lost out on such an amazing player.
But then all this like hobby attention, and then actually it turns out that SGA is the guard of the generation. Can you imagine if that's what plays out?
Crazy narrative, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, like that's the thing. If you're investing in Luka, you've missed the boat because there's no opportunity. Like he's you're paying future prices for Luka already.
Yeah.
And SGA, the boat is starting to sail, but hasn't sailed.
Yeah. Look, I think if we had this conversation 12 months ago, it'd be very different. Yeah. But at the same time,
yeah, it's and that's it. Like, I mean, I do it all the time, and I apologize. If Luca wants to call me up and have a crack, we can have a chat about it. But honestly,
I don't want to hurt your ego, Ad. I don't think Luca really cares about what we say about him, to be honest.
I know. Who's our friend?
Hey, when
we got the voicemails, Giannis rang up.
Not even we. Hey, I'm like the biggest Luka defender on this show.
You are, and Luka's just. I'll get if I ever get a PM from Luka Doncic saying, "Mate, can you back off, please?" I might. I'll think about it. I'll consider it. I think the guy can play. I think the guy's an amazing basketballer, but we're still paying overs on potential.
I think it's good we have different opinions on this, to be perfectly honest. So,
and I feel like I've chosen my lane. I'm sticking to it.
No, stick to it, man. Die on this hill. Like, flog this horse until it's dead. You know,
it's already dead. Fine. We're just gonna keep flogging it.
Don't keep going. Alrighty, this next one is juicy. I think this is probably as juicy controversy as we would delve into. Ad. So this is from Ryan Hodge, who is the president of PSA Cards. Again, this will be in the description if you do want to click on the link. Lots of conversations around this card in recent days. I got to hold it and its cousin. They were both in-house. PSA stands by the original assessment, and our graders did not detect anything with the service to deem it was altered. So I should have introduced this segment a lot better. What we're talking about here are the black 1/1 and the black shimmer Fodal 1/1 Victor Wembanyama, which were both sent to PSA. The black 1/1 got a 10, and the social media reverberations was that it had been some type of cleaning product had been applied to it. And I'm not naming brand names or anything of the like. That is just what was suggested.
Yeah.
PSA does not approve of any chemicals or foreign substances being added to the surface of a card to improve the condition or appearance. If we detect this has happened to any card, we will consider it altered. What
caveat
were your
there.
feelings when you heard about this story?
Caveat there is if they detect it. It's interesting. It's what do you? Because the thing is, right? What do you think is the problem? Because and this is why I like BGS. Because it gives you the subgrades. It tells you where things went wrong or things are flawed on the card.
Sure.
Like looking at the first off the line, 1/1, I'm going to guess that the centering's not the problem. Do you know what I mean? Like it's...
So yeah, to answer your question, we are speculating why it got a 9. I suspect
Surface?
the easiest analogy for this is like the hyper cards, where they're very difficult to gem because essentially the way they're printed generates print lines. So I'm going to go out into a leaf and say that's what it is for that one. But what people were speculating on the black 1/1 is that it had been cleaned and touched up basically out the wazoo to make sure that it got the 10. So look,
given that they made this statement, my guess is surface. Do you know what I mean? Because it's not the corners. They're not going to talk about the surface if it's the corners.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. That's exactly. They are talking about the surfaces being cleaned. Yeah.
Yeah, the surface. So the shimmer didn't copper the surface clean.
I suspect that's more of like a mechanical thing, whereas that was the way it was printed, like literally into the card.
Okay.
So it doesn't matter.
So it could be a printing error. It doesn't matter how you clean it up. It's still going to be flawed.
Again, going back to that analogy of the hyper, it doesn't matter. You can clean that until the top of the cards come off. It's the way that it's printed into the card, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah. It's an interesting one because the way they've worded it, they don't approve of chemicals or foreign substances being added to the surface.
So that's the argument with the cleaning products, is that when you're cleaning the card,
they polish it off.
You then remove the substance that's applied. So, but there are things available that you can do to basically try and remove scratches and buff them out, and that's what is not allowed. And Lane from PSA Grading Australia has spoken about this many times. If you do get caught doing that, you basically just can't sub again. It's like
you get a one of one listing.
It's a swift death.
That's a joke for blacklisting. One of one listing. Yeah. eBay one of one.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there you go. You get tagged with an eBay one of one.
Someone else was complaining on socials about that this week, so I'm not the only person who gets annoyed by that.
I'm sure there's a couple of people out there that don't like it.
So the person that I don't want to name his name in the comments said, "Thank you for your clarification and transparency." So thank you for chiming in there, Jeff Wilson. We appreciate that. It's like Magic Johnson on Twitter, just stating the obvious constantly, you know?
Thanks for stating the obvious. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Because some of us need that from time to time.
Exactly. And look, to be honest, the rest of the comments are a bit completely unrelated to, what we're talking about here. So,
yeah.
Look, what's your final thoughts on this? Where are you at with this?
Clean. I still don't see a problem.
Do you see this as a controversy? That's where I'm sort of leading to.
They're both one of ones. In my opinion, there's really no controversy. Like, it's interesting that the PSA, like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's a pretty high up statement to but I think that it seems obvious. We've talked about modifying cards, and I don't think modifying cards is okay at all. We've talked about trimming, we've talked about adding stuff. But yeah, like, everybody's entitled to try and clean up a card.
Yeah, look.
I mean, there's a big difference. I think there's a big difference between getting a microfiber cloth or something and just trying to get rid of impurities that are on the surface from being exposed to the elements versus adding something and.
There's a million reasons why someone would try and alter this card for it to get 10.
Millions of reasons if Wemby's as good as everyone thinks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's a little bit
fraught with danger.
Naive is not the right word, but I don't think the narrative is really there to suggest that it has been done. Like, there's not a lot of evidence. I couldn't find anything that was any evidence of it.
No.
And I'd probably also say, too, it's very brazen to send off a card that big with 0.5 centimeter of card cleaning product still stuck to the top to try and cover up a scratch. Like that, to me, the logic is just not there. Like, this isn't a 30-second grade that they're going to do on this card. So,
nope.
Yeah. What I do like, though, and God, I hate I'm agreeing with Jeff Wilson, but I actually think it's good that the company comes out and discusses it, because this is what we talked about when we have talked about this previously. I really do feel like these card cleaning products are almost like the dirty secret that no one talks about, and it just really baffles me why we just can't have a transparent conversation. So this is like fantastic. I think that's the first step, really. So, and it's great to hear them.
What do you think? Like, and I understand and appreciate people's noble intentions. But if we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars, or we're talking a one-of-one Wemby, right? This guy's on the trajectory we think he's on. This is not a hundreds of thousands of dollars card. This is a millions of dollars card
Sure.
or multiple million, right? Could
Yeah.
be a couple of mil for
Sure.
the rookie 1 of 1.
Sure.
What's the incentive to do the noble thing and not malter the service? And not try and make it get the grade as high as possible. What is the incentive to not clean it before sending it?
As in just get it authenticated.
Yeah.
Well, I think if it gets 10, you'll get more money for it.
So what's the incentive not to clean it? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's all well and good, and I'm not suggesting that I wouldn't have moral concerns about it, but if I'm sitting with a card that I'm looking at saying this is $1 million, and if I touch this up use my inverted commas, touch this up, clean it up, spruce it up a bit, that's $2.5 million. How many people aren't doing that or aren't tempted to do that?
No, I definitely think that the card was cleaned, and I.
Look, I agree. We've both gone about card cleaning, but I mean,
no one is
the
going to do that.
temptation's there.
Sure, but like, that's okay. That's fine. Actually, I don't disagree with what you're saying. Like, I agree with you. There's millions of reasons to do it, but there was actually nothing. Like, you showed me the evidence that it had been altered. This to me is just like another like card scandal that becomes something that wasn't there. And
yeah, agreed.
Let's just say they did do it. That is very brazen. Because to take the risk and then, as they said with PSA, for it to come back as altered, do you know what I mean? Like, that is an extremely large risk to make. Because if that card comes back as altered,
well, you can't get it authenticated.
You can't crack it and send it back and hope that they don't have it in their catalog.
It's a 1 of 1.
Are you kidding? Even BGS, who was stuck in the 1980s, would still find out about this,
BCCG?
Maybe, if you're lucky.
I'll get a 10. Anyway. But I'm just saying that the temptation to clean it up is there. Modifying and altering it, I think, is crossing a line and is fraught with danger. But I think cleaning it up makes sense. Could you imagine taking it from an 8 to a 9? There's a difference between $500,000 and $1 million.
Sure.
It's a 1 of 1, so you're right. It should have been authenticated anyway. But
I didn't say it should have been authenticated. Yeah. If they can get a 10, I say go nuts. That's fine. Yep.
Duncan, go nuts.
Yep. Alrighty. We're just going to talk about Wembanyama cards for the next 15 minutes or so.
Let's go. Yep. Wemby it is.
I found a black label currently listed on eBay at the moment, a level 2 Court Kings.
Yep.
Currently bidding at 810 USD. So that's the black label premium right there. Now, the level 4s, I wanted to talk to you about this because what do you think about the level 4 design compared to, say, the level 3 design? Because I
looked at the level
prefer...
4s. We looked at the level 4s. Was it last week or the week before? But I was surprised.
I think I prefer the level 3s, particularly at the price point.
Yeah.
Irregardless of that, the level 4s are still going to go for more just because of the collectability, because of the pop count. I get all of that, but aesthetically, I prefer the 3s. The sales of the Wembanyama level 4s have been very strong. 3,100, 2,900, 3,100, 3,070. There's currently one listed at the moment with about 18 hours left. 2,325. So there's no reason to think it won't get to 2.9 or 3.
Yeah, definitely. Thoughts? Like, I'm not a huge fan of the level 4 design this year, but because Wemby is a Spur, I do feel like the black and white looks really good on the level 4 with Wemby specifically.
Definitely, I think in general they're doing a better job of color matching, and they're not so much sticking to a particular color theme on cards. with the exception of the blank slate, like they're all black. But I've noticed they're matching colors a lot more. So all of the level 4s essentially are color matched. Like that's
Yeah,
across
but
the
I
board.
like the black and white uniform. I do like the black and white narrative to it.
Yeah, sure.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it had the black and white player with the color match background.
So I
On the
think
others, but
in that case, you should check out the level 3 because I actually find that more of a black and white card, and I think that's why I like the level 3 more than the level 4. Yeah.
The level 2, not so much.
That is very colorful.
It's the opposite of black and white.
That is a very joyous, happy card.
It is. It's very, yeah. Rainbow.
So, Ad, if you just check your Facebook Messenger, I sent you a comparison of the level 4 Court Kings versus the Blaster Court Kings case hit, which is the blank slate. So, for people at home, you're all going to get an opportunity to have your say on this. That's going to go onto socials tomorrow morning.
Is that actually not a... Sorry, I'm just checking out a level 3. Is that a drawing?
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting. Sorry, I was looking that up. I'm in the messenger thing at the moment. I do... The blank slate is black. Huh.
All right. So, sorry.
Black slate.
We need to talk about this. I didn't realize you didn't know.
That the blank slates were black.
So they've changed the blank slates this year.
Are they black slates?
We can call them black slates if you'd like. So what people have been complaining about is that the last one's gemmed so well because of the surface was basically rough all the way across.
Mm-hmm.
And then
textured.
Because of the way the card was printed, there wasn't so much of a border. So the centering was basically very, very generous. The way the cards were cut, they were all cut pretty consistently. So what's going to change this year, though, with the black is going to show up the edges a lot more. And then looking at the actual card itself, there's not exactly a border on the card, but there's more of a border this year. Actually, let me rephrase that. There is a very distinctive border that allows you to center the card from a grading perspective. So,
yeah,
I don't think as many people this year are going to get PSA 10s on these that they were getting the last couple of years.
So I reckon the 10s are going to be
much harder to come by.
Yep.
So what I'm putting to you, though, is let's just say these were both the same price. What would you purchase, the blank slate or the level 4?
I'd take the blank slate.
Yeah, I am frothing over this card so hard. It's
I like
not
it.
funny.
I really like it. Yeah, the blank slate.
And I don't want to poo-poo the level 4 because it's a case hit, but I'm going to do it anyway. I think that blank slate is 20 times more collectible than the level 4. And I actually think there are some cards that are just stayers. There are some cards that are just basically cards that are going to be famous. I'm going to put that into that thing that I think we're going to be talking about this card in 20 years time, honestly.
Yeah.
Whereas the level 4, I think, is just going to fade out to obscurity. So we were talking about comps earlier in the episode. We were floating around numbers of like 3,000 plus. I couldn't find any sold prices on the blank slate. Like, they're relatively new. There is currently one listed at the moment, $2,325 with 19 hours left. If that goes less than the level 4, I think that is one of the shrewdest purchases that I've seen for a very long time.
Yeah.
I think that blank slate is just, they've just absolutely nailed that in such a profound way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's quality. It's very, very quality.
And I'm trying to not froth too much about this card because I'm going to come off sounding as a lunatic. But, yeah.
Matthew Hull in the chat. Shush. Tell everyone that the slates are yuck. We can keep them for ourselves. Yeah, they are. They are. Do you know what? After looking at the level 2, do you know what I want? A black label, black slate. I mean blank slate. I mean black slate. I want a black label, black slate.
That's just too many words in a row for me.
Yeah. Also, Anthony Milne did say, surely Panini just ran out of white ink. That's why they changed to black. Yeah, that's it. They've run out the white. They're onto the black ink.
Can you see how cynical we've become, though? That even when they change the color of a card, it's because Panini's done something wrong.
It's all Panini's fault.
Yeah.
What are we going to do next year or the year after when they're gone?
I think Fanatics are going to make just as many gaffes, to be honest.
Oh, give us a couple of years. We'll find plenty of shade to throw at Fanatics, I'm sure.
We are at the hour and 10 mark, so I say we do 3 more things really quick hitting, and then we call it a night. Ad.
I think that's a great idea. I think,
right.
Yeah, let's do it.
Ben Simmons is out for the rest of the year. He had surgery on his... He had a discectomy done today. So I think we've made a lot of fun of Ben Simmons.
I'm ready to make more fun and go, well, there goes his Olympic year. Anyway.
Look, get well soon, Ben Simmons.
Good luck.
We miss you on the basketball court, and
yes, get better.
All best regards. Yeah. All right.
Get better.
Now the next 2 things are actually not basketball related, but I want to talk about these in the context of basketball. Okay, so this is from Eric. Both of these next posts are from Eric Whitebacks. Highest sale of 3,000, current value $11.99. That's a 2021 Donruss Mac Jones PSA 10.
Mm-hmm.
Now the other card is a 2014 Neymar base PSA 10, sold for $4,450 in 2020. Most recent sale was $21.60. So, what is the common theme or thread here, Adam?
All right.
Are these cards base or short printed?
I'm having a look. Okay. Highest sale 3,000.
Sorry, I didn't think this would be such a tricky question for you. Both of these cards are base cards.
They look like base cards. I'm trying to figure out where the trick is. They just look like base cards.
This is not a trick. This is not a trick. But this is the point of the exercise, right? And this is what is very applicable to basketball. So I think that there are some things in other sports cards that are just going to come back to basketball. And look, to be fair, we've already seen some of this happening, but we haven't seen it to the same heights and we haven't seen it to the same lows, with the exception of Kobe White. Kobe White went down to $10.
Sure.
Be very, very careful overpaying for base. I'm going to leave it at that. I'm not going to sit here and preach, but that is like...
Do you know while we've been talking, the Luka count has gone from 50,000 to 65,000 base?
People are going to start believing you about this stuff.
It's
not true.
It's only in the 40s. The amount of gem base cards with Luka is over 40,000.
Oh, you're not joking?
Of base, yeah. But that's between PSA 9, 10, BGS, I'm gem graded, is over 40,000.
Okay, fine. So why don't we use that as an example? So it's not impossible for those cards to plummet down exponentially, just like those soccer cards have, just like Mac Jones has. It's not impossible for it to happen. But
Matthew
that also applies.
Get Adam Amy a Luka base gem 10.
Just get him one for Christmas, Matty. All right. So those last 3 quick hitters were a little bit on the negative side. I want to finish the show on a positive side. Let's talk about this card. Steph Curry, 2009 Topps Chrome Gold Refractor.
Love it.
Number to 50. PSA 7. Sold for $85,400. Adam, is this a shrewd purchase or is this a foolhardy purchase?
PSA 7 is such an interesting grade.
Now, remember out of this year, there wasn't It's not like these days where there's 50 different parallels. I think in that year there was 3 or 4. And the one of one hasn't surfaced out of that yet either.
Oh, wow. Is this the same card? And this is just because I only saw it. I saw this a while ago when they did the golden thing on the special on Netflix that the kids sold for like $175K. Is this the same card?
I think that one was numbered to 10 though, wasn't it?
Was it 10 or was it 50? But it was a 50, but it was a higher grade. I still think this is. I think this is a smart long-term hold.
Yep. So out of that year, there's the gold refractor.
Yep.
There's the base to 999.
Yep.
And there's the refractor to 500.
So this is the lowest numbering.
This is the lowest publicly available of this card. Yep.
Yep.
The PSA 10 is Pop 2.
Yep.
And last sold for 25,000, but that was in 2019. So if that So if that sold for $85,000 of PSA 7, you could speculate that PSA 10 will now sell for what, 250?
Yeah.
Look, I think whoever bought this is actually very shrewd. And that's why I purposely asked you that question, because that's the way I wanted to go with this, because we were talking about this before. If you really nail it down to the players of our generation, Jordan, Kobe, LeBron, Steph, that's the generation. You can make an argument for Giannis, you can make an argument for Jokic. I'm totally fine with that, but yeah. I think this is actually a really important card, and the fact that there is just 50 of them, and
more card ladder. Okay, refractor, far out.
Final thoughts, Adam?
I do think Curry is one of those long-term investment players. God, the hobby's looking good. That's my final thought.
Great.
And all those people on the central coast of the United States are going to be excited to hear us talk about it.
Drinking their coffee, listening to us. That sounds fantastic.
Getting ready for their Saturday evening basketball fix, listening to the You Can't Comp This radio show.
Imagine that as a pre-game ritual.
That's it. Like, we're going to listen to... We're going to listen to Adam and Russell. Adam's going to slag out Luka before we watch Luka drop 40 points. And not get the chocolates at the end of the season. God, I feel like I owe Luka Doncic an apology, but I think I need to see him in person in order to give him
when he
apology.
wins the MVP, I'm going to send you that meme about the apology.
I'm going to send him an apology. I'm going to be like, I'm really sorry. I was wrong. Here's a Luka Doncic PSA 10 base card. Population 400,000.
Oh, God.
No, I'm kidding. No, look, I'd like to see him win an MVP or a championship or something to really just to make me shut up about it. But, yeah.
My final thoughts are blank slates, blank slates, blank slates. Let's go for the blank slates.
Black slates it is.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. We will see you next week.